here's Febiven.
Thanks, Trevor. Happy to be here. Of course, after a pretty dominant 2-0 victory, things have to be looking pretty good for you. But what I want to talk about, a lot of interesting picks came out in that series. Kha'Zix from your guys' side, Yasuo, Alawi. How do you adapt on the fly to unique picks like this coming out from the opposite team?
Since the patch 6.11 got released, the junglers got nerfed. So we basically just try out everything. Like Kha'Zix is pretty strong right now because the other junglers are nerfed. So. And just the Vladimir is really strong because he got reworked. And there's just so much more picks viable now because the other champions gets nerfed. So you just have a lot more to play.
Yeah. And looking at Exile in the mid lane, it seems like you were pretty comfortable against him after that first early game stage of Yasuo. In our video earlier, you talked about him being kind of a younger player, needing to learn and get more comfortable on stage. Do you feel like that's already starting to happen for him, or was it just kind of pretty easy for you in that mid lane?
Yeah, it was not that hard for me. I think it's hard for him to just step in and just play against good players like us. And I think they failed really hard in the draft phase. Like we outdrafted them 2 games in a row, and we just played better. So it's a team game, so it's not much he can do.
Well, aside from your draft success, it seems like your team communication is just continuing to improve as you go forward. Some excellently coordinated team fights now. With Yellowstar back on the lineup, the shot calling seems to be better. Do you think it's just going to continue to get easier for you guys from here on out?
Yeah, with having Yellowstar back, it's really, really easy for me, specifically because I don't have to communicate at all. I just have to feed information about my lane. I don't have to think about macro, basically. So I can just play mechanically really well if I don't have to focus on all these things happening around me, and it's really beneficial for me and Martin as well.
All right, well, thank you so much for talking to me, but of course, congrats again on your win, and that's going to do it for us up here. Let's toss it over to Shox on the analyst desk to break down the rest of that game.
I do benefit
it's
from
also
Yellowstar shot calling. I do benefit from it too. Much easier.
I love that out of Febiven because, what are you supposed to say when it goes that well? He just said, well, obviously, it wasn't that hard for me because as a team, we did better than them as a team, not trying to single out Exile in that one. UOL just not showing a lot. But we want to talk about it, Lawi. You called it in the beginning of the show, actually, which is very impressive because this is the first time she was picked in LCS, rather, history.
Yeah.
How did you know?
Well, so first of all, she was picked in NACS actually yesterday.
That's not LCS.
No, but she was picked there. Also, she's been used more in solo queue, and I had the pleasure of talking to Pulse about it, who's been playing a lot of this champion, and he gave me a lot of tips, on her. And we realized with the new changes, some of the top lane nerfs, and also with Black Cleaver being a good starting item on her, even Trendy Force is actually a good other option.
Yep.
Right now, she does have value in terms of destroying her lane, but apart from being a really strong 1v1 champion, she struggles in team fights, she struggles in lane swaps, and there's a lot of problems with her. But this is the stuff you can do. Just either guys, so there's 2 targets basically, and then pop your ulti so you get 2 of these massive tentacles just saying smack, and yeah, someone dies.
So, because this is the first time a lot of people will have likely seen Alawi in, well, competitive history, the typical combo, and again, this is from Pulse, want to give credit to Pulse, but the typical combo for an Alawi is you drag them in with the E, and then you hit them with the Q, because you get a lot of bonus damage. So I believe the combo is E, Alt, Q, yeah?
And not only just hit them with the Q, just they're on their clone, you want to make sure you actually line it so you hit the guy behind as well, so you both get damage on the clone and him. And then when you spawn the 2 big tentacles with your ulti, they also give you a double smack down. And again, damage-wise, you can't really stop her. She can even 1v2 if she gets ganked, like after level 6. But she wants to get level 6. She wants to stand at lane for as long as possible so she can be a bully. Team fighting-wise, Chachi didn't do anything, and that's sadly the case of Ilaari. Sometimes you get a sick ulti, and that's it.
So the reason why I do think that he struggled in terms of setting up those fights, so the first one is you need a team comp to allow you to actually set up those fights, right? Because you and I were discussing why are you picking Nidalee with Alawi. Nidalee doesn't complement an Alawi in the slightest, because an Alawi is literally all about going in. She wants to team fight, but she's not actually great at setting up those team fights for herself. She either needs to go for a flank, or the CC needs to be there ready for her to then just dive in and be like, okay, I can do my damage now. But if that setup isn't available, you have a lot of setups where we saw a lot of fights where Alawi just sort of walked forwards, tried to force a fight, and then just got killed before she even got there.
I'm loving all of the motions here. TLDR. That's just what you do. In any case, UOL, I mean, much like last week on their first day, looking not good.
Oh, I thought
Really bad. Not
Dropped
good
the-
at all. No,
dropped
no,
the
not good
bomb
at all.
there.
And then on day 2, they looked really, really good. But then here again, nothing worked for them. Not taking anything away from Fnatic, obviously, because they played a very, very clean series.
But I mean, first of all, it makes it very difficult for Unicorns to play well when they draft like this.
Yeah.
Like first with the Yasuo pick, and again they want to play 1-3-1. Fair enough. Then they want to do exactly the same in the next game. So like, Illaoi and Nidalee only work together because Illaoi is supposed to win her lane, set up Nidalee to then invade into the enemy jungle, and you have like this really strong control on top side with very strong skirmish champions that actually never won a team fight like ever in a million years, because you just want to play 1-3-1, and Illaoi doesn't want a team fight. She actually just wants to 1v1. The problem is then when you start falling behind because your bot lane is a Jinx, which
Yeah.
has no place in this comp, like at all, like no place
And
at all.
meta, arguably.
You don't want a team fight, first of all. You want to have strong lanes so you can actually make sure you set up these 2 soul laners in Illaoi and LeBlanc to be strong and then move to the side lanes. Jinx Karma gets, obviously in this case he lost the lane. Veritas didn't play it well early on. Again, the Jinx needs too much time to ramp up as well. And I'm just like, why? So it becomes super difficult for Unicorns to actually execute these kind of comps. And that's why once they fall behind, it just goes completely wrong.
And not only that, Fnatic's comp as a whole was just very strong because
it's great.
Lissandra into LeBlanc can hold it on. That mid-game pressure completely disappears. And the jungle Kha'Zix can keep up in terms of pressure with the Nidalee.
Yep.
And then you have the Sivir who's constantly pushing that Jinx under the bottom.
Yeah, with that, it also allowed Reckless to have a great game on Sivir, and he is our player of the game for this one. One of those games where, you know, the whole team definitely steps up. Fantastic scoreline from him on Sivir. Good play overall. Definitely what Febiven said and what Reckless echoed or said before him last week is that shot calling, it's off their minds now, and they can
Yep.
focus on their own role.
All you do is feed information, Yellowstar takes the information and then comes up with a plan and you know what to do. And in this game, Reckless, you know, won his
Is it
laning phase,
champion or what are we-
set up so many early kills, and easy peasy.
Yeah, that was Fnatic taking it 2-0 over here, but over in the LCS studio, G2 and Roccat have just loaded into Game 2 as the reigning European champions look to keep their winning streak going. Take a minute and catch up on Game 1, because that was going on while we were looking at this one. G2 with the Zillion is what we saw
Yep.
when we checked in last.
Basically, when you have the best AD carry in the West, you can pick a champ like Zillion and just say, you know what, my AD carry late game is probably going to do well. I just need to protect him, keep him alive. It didn't start that well for G2 though. They actually fell a little bit behind, gave away a few kills here and there, but then classic G2 style, they start getting some good skirmishes. Great setup here for Kikis, the dream of Aurelia. Oh, 2 low targets, QQ, and then suddenly you have 2 kills. And from here on out, honestly, G2 just won every single fight, and Sven got to that point where he's a fed Caitlyn with a Zillion protecting him and an army, and he could just go crazy in every single team fight. Look how close he's standing here, just getting a few hits off everywhere. Very, very easy for G2 to close out the game, honestly, and win these last few team fights, and they are just such a good team right now. No one seems to be able to challenge them, except for maybe Fnatic.
Maybe we will see. Obviously, G2 versus Roccat is currently in their Game 2, and if you want to go check that out, they've also subbed out Kikis and subbed in Expect in the top lane, so that is definitely something to watch, how they adjust to that, and really good for me that that's another team that takes use of the fact that you have those sub spots.
The thing for me is, now Kikis has demonstrated that he can play more than just tanks. So I'm wondering as to what Expect can actually bring to the team that is unique to Kikis, because already we've seen, as Deficio has mentioned, this shift in the meta, and perhaps Expect will be able to bring something a little bit more unique, but the fact that both top laners share a very similar champ pool means that I don't think G2 is going to shift very much.
He's actually playing Aurelia right now, just like Kikis did in the last game, but I think Expect is more focused on like just his individual lane 1v1, but Kikis is more of the team player, so we might see an even stronger laning phase from him compared to Kikis, but Kikis is a great, great team player.
Yeah, maybe in the day G2 versus OG, Expect versus Expect if the day comes.
Who knows, man? Who knows?
We'll see what happens. In any case, G2 and Roccat is in Game 2. For here, though, there is still one match left to play tonight in the LCS arena. When we return, it is Splice versus Schalke 04, so stay tuned.
They're loading up onto the Rift. Flashes away, but here comes Febby looking for Hilly. It's a double kill for Reckless. Spirit has managed to kill the passive.
Oh, here we
Now
go.
Spirit's in trouble. Tidal Wave comes out. Spirit, he blows invisible, and the ulti is going to lock Chachi down. Vitas is going to get last hit, almost one shot. Tidal Wave comes down, that secures it. Almost stays alive. Spirit is going to leap forward. They turn their attention to visit Chachi. He's simply not tanky enough, even with the tentacles coming down. Fnatic get the ace. Fnatic clean up the series 2-0.